I am a perfectionist and a control freak and an eldest Asian daughter to the max. I've suffered from PCOS. I have drowned in debt. I lost my brother to suicide. I'm a 43-year-old, unmarried, childless woman. And despite all of these things that our culture tells us should make someone miserable, most people who know me would say I'm genuinely happy. I would say I'm genuinely happy. If you're someone who feels like you've tried all the things to be happy, the self-care Sundays, the gratitude journals, the mindfulness apps, and you still feel like you're waiting to feel happy, this episode is for you. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing why joy may feel so elusive right now, the 4 specific blocks that might be keeping you stuck, and most importantly, we're going to talk about what you can do about it starting today. Because you deserve to feel good in your life. And I don't believe in gatekeeping things that can make people's lives better, that can make your life better. By the way, I don't want you to miss out on these conversations. So if you aren't already, be sure to subscribe and follow along and join thousands of people who are also working to build lives that feel more meaningful and more connected. If we haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Therese, and this is Checking In. I've spent over 15 years in therapy rooms, noticing patterns that most people never get to see. The specific things that happen right before someone breaks through to genuine joy, and the predictable blocks that keep people stuck. What I'm about to share with you isn't just theory from textbooks. It's insider information from real conversations with people who felt exactly the way that you feel now. Here's something most people don't realize. We live in a dopamine-obsessed world where we don't know how to be sad anymore. We don't know how to ask for help. And when we feel unhappy, we tend to blame others for our unhappiness. We treat joy as if it's a treasure found through an elaborate scavenger hunt instead of a garden we tend to every day. I'm going to share 4 blocks I see over and over again. The ones that keep even the most self-aware, high-achieving people stuck. And once you start to see these blocks, everything starts to make sense. The first block is your expectations. Your expectations are working against you. There is fascinating research from Denmark about why Danish people consistently rank among the happiest in the world. And you know what the secret is? You'll never believe it. Low expectations. They don't expect every day to be amazing. They expect every day to be normal. So when something good happens, a sunny afternoon, a nice interaction at the store, they feel genuinely delighted. Most of us have expectations that are making joy nearly impossible. We expect to wake up each day feeling energized, go to our perfect jobs, have the most meaningful, perfect relationships, and to end each day feeling completely and perfectly accomplished. We expect our vacations to always be life-changing. We expect every date to end in fireworks. We expect our career to fulfill our life's dreams. And then we wonder why we're constantly disappointed. The problem isn't wanting good things, because we should want good things. The problem is when you expect peak experiences from ordinary moments, which sets you up for chronic disappointment. The second block is what I call destination anxiety. This is when you've convinced yourself that joy is waiting at some future destination, and you just have to endure the everyday moments of life until you get there. You say you want joy, but joy only ever exists in future moments, and that's keeping you stuck. This sounds like, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I lose the weight, when I get the relationship, when I finally pay off my credit cards. And there's always another destination. You're asking external circumstances to give you an internal experience. And the math never works out because you're so focused on the next thing that you miss the good stuff happening right now. The fix is finding the gray between the black and white, or as we sometimes call it, both and thinking. You can work toward goals and have moments of joy right now. You don't have to choose between ambition or contentment. The third block goes deeper. Core beliefs, core wounds, developed in childhood usually, that whisper, joy isn't for me. These core beliefs sound like good things don't happen to people like me. If I get too happy, something bad will happen. I don't deserve to feel good. Joy is selfish. The only way to happiness is through struggle. Maybe you grew up where happiness was viewed with suspicion, or where struggle was worn like a badge of honor. Maybe you learned that showing joy was dangerous, that it made you too vulnerable. And here's what this looks like. When something good happens, your first instinct isn't celebration, it's bracing yourself for something bad to happen. When you feel happy, you immediately feel guilty or scared. When you accomplish something, you minimize it instead of feeling proud. These wounds can run deep. But the first step is awareness. You can start noticing when these beliefs show up and question them. Is this thought helping me? Is this actually true, or is this an old story or narrative? Can I be real for a second? One of the most frustrating things I find as a therapist is the admin. I can't tell you the number of times I felt haunted by all the notes that I needed to catch up on. That's why I love being partnered with Therapy Notes. It's practice management software for therapists who want to spend more time helping people and less time drowning in paperwork. Their templates make sense, the billing is seamless, and now they have Therapy Fuel, AI that can draft your progress notes in seconds. If you're tired of your practice managing you instead of the other way around, you can try Therapy Notes for free for 2 months using my promo code Dr. Therese. That's DrTherese. You can find the link in the show notes or the description below. All right, back to our conversation. The fourth block is comparison, the comparison trap. Comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the excuse we use to avoid tending our own garden. When we're not feeling joyful, comparison gives us something to blame. If only I had what she has, her relationship, her house, her job, then I'd be happy. So often we scroll through social media and curate a fantasy life based on someone else's highlight reel. But here's what comparison really is. It's a way to avoid responsibility for your own joy. It's easier to blame your unhappiness on not having what someone else has than asking yourself, what can I do with what I actually have? You're comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. You're comparing your basic Tuesday morning where you're tired or sleepy and worried about finances to someone else's picture-perfect vacation in Greece. The antidote isn't to stop noticing what other people have. The antidote is to get really curious about your own life. Instead of, why don't I have what she has? Try asking, what do I have that I'm not appreciating enough? You're not behind on some invisible timeline. You're not missing some crucial life skill that everyone else in the world has learned. The struggle you're having with joy and finding happiness, it's completely normal and it's completely workable. The path to more joy isn't about fixing what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's about understanding how your mind works and making small shifts that create space to allow more of the good stuff in. You don't need a complete life overhaul. You just need better tools, and you're about to get them. Okay, so now that we understand what's keeping you stuck, let's talk about what actually helps and works. And really, what we focus on are what I call joy adjacent practices. I want to acknowledge that some of you are dealing with real structural barriers to joy right now. Financial issues, caregiver responsibilities, health issues, discrimination. These strategies, these ideas that I'm going to share with you, they aren't about bypassing those realities or about pretending that mindset is everything. But even within these difficult circumstances, these techniques can often help provide small pockets of relief or connection. Let's be clear. If you're struggling to meet your basic needs, if you're in an abusive situation, if you are suffering from depression or the impacts of trauma, that's not your fault. You need care and you need resources to help you move out of survival mode. And having your basic needs met is such a crucial foundation for joy. And some of you might be thinking, but in my family, we think joy is selfish. Or in my culture, we don't prioritize personal happiness. I get it. However, you can honor your values and still attend to your personal well-being. Joy doesn't have to look selfish. It can also look like being more present for yourself and the people you love. If joy feels too big or even unrealistic right now, what might be more realistic and achievable are what I like to call joy adjacent practices. And here's something that most therapists probably wouldn't tell you. You don't actually have to feel joy to start cultivating it. These joy adjacent practices create the conditions for joy to emerge naturally, like preparing the soil before you plant a seed. So I'm going to share with you 3 approaches that are joy adjacent, and I'm going to invite you to start with one, because starting with all 3 is probably unnecessarily overwhelming, and you're more likely to be successful if you start with just one simple thing. The first joy adjacent practice is presence. Joy lives in the present moment, but most of us are anywhere except here. Presence doesn't mean perfect mindfulness or sitting in meditation for an hour and a half a day. It's actually something much simpler and much more powerful than most people realize. Here's what presence can look like. Feeling your feet on the floor while you're doing dishes instead of mentally preparing for tomorrow's presentation. Actually taking a minute to taste your coffee instead of simultaneously scrolling through your phone. Making eye contact with your partner and really seeing them instead of looking through them while you think about your to-do list. Here are 2 ways that you can practice presence. The first is called the one thing practice. Pick one thing that you do every day routinely, like brushing your teeth, drinking your coffee, or walking to your car, and commit to being fully present just for that one thing. Whenever your mind wanders, gently bring it back. And another favorite of mine for practicing presence, favorite of most therapists, is called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. When you notice your mind spinning, ground yourself in the present moment by naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And my favorite thing is to add in another 1 at the end, 1 thing that you're grateful for. The second joy adjacent practice is gratitude. Now hold on a second. If the idea of practicing gratitude makes you want to roll your eyes, this is what I want to say to you. Gratitude is a practice, not always necessarily a feeling. Now here's an insight that was actually a game changer for me. You're not trying to focus on feeling grateful. You're trying to train your brain to notice what's working. And here's yet another insight that was revolutionary for me. You don't actually have to feel grateful to practice gratitude. Our brain, your brain, is naturally wired to notice problems and threats. But gratitude practice is like cross-training for your brain, getting your brain to focus on noticing what's going right, what's present, and what's working. So here are 2 ideas for how you can practice that. The first is called the 3 things practice. All you're going to do is at night, when you're about to go to bed, name 3 things that worked that day. They can be tiny things like my commute was shorter than usual, or my coworker brought jam donuts, or I remembered to water my plant today. The goal isn't to try and feel immensely overwhelmed with gratitude. It's just to take a moment to recognize that even on hard days, some things work. The second idea is called the contrast practice. And this is when you think of a complaint or something that's not going right, you pair it with a more balanced, more positive thought. This traffic is terrible, and I'm grateful to have a car. I didn't like the rain today, and I'm grateful because it could have been worse. This isn't toxic positivity. This is training your brain to see the whole picture. The third joy adjacent practice is acceptance. And this draws from ancient Stoic philosophy. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Stoicism, but it's removed from the tough it out, broicism version of Stoicism that you may have heard of. True Stoicism is about emotional wisdom, learning to distinguish the things you can control from the things that you can't. Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about giving up the exhausting fight against reality so you can actually deal with what's in front of you. Most of our suffering occurs not from what's happening, but to our resistance to what's happening. Acceptance doesn't mean you like everything or love everything. It means you acknowledge what's true right now so you can respond from clarity instead of reactivity. I have two simple ways you can practice acceptance. The first is called a control audit, which is where you write down everything on your mind and then you circle all the things that you can actually control. And when you can focus your energy on what you can't control, you're also hopefully letting go of the rest. You can't control, for example, if someone's late, but you can control what you do with the time while you're waiting for them. The second technique is called the this too practice. You may have heard people say, this too shall pass. This is similar to that. So when something difficult happens, try saying, this too is a part of my human experience. Not with resignation, but with a simple acknowledgement. I'm anxious about my presentation, and this too is a part of my human experience. Now, I've shared a few ideas with you, and to make something stick the most effective way, I'm going to suggest that you start with one practice and focus on it for a week. Set a phone reminder. That's usually a great tip if you tend to forget things. And when you miss a day, which you're going to because it's normal, you're just going to start again the next day. And the thing to remember is that this is what building a habit looks like. You are not pursuing perfection. In fact, if you can aim for getting it done 80% of the time, that's a fantastic start. And then after 1 week, if that first practice is becoming more of a habit, then you can try a second one. What I often notice, and in fact, what I've often done myself, is that kind of like New Year's resolutions, you try to do everything at once and you try to do it too intensely. And of course, not surprisingly, you fail. You end up not doing anything because it's too overwhelming. So starting small is the more effective, least overwhelming way to go. So again, start small, build success, and then expand. Now I know these ideas aren't going to make you the happiest human overnight, but what they can do is help you shake off unhealthy patterns and move you towards healthier ways of thinking that lay the groundwork where joy can grow. Remember that cultivating joy isn't supposed to be some impossible journey like the search for the Holy Grail with the cards stacked against you and obstacles at every turn. It's a garden that you tend to with healthy habits. And before you know it, the seeds that you planted months ago might have the opportunity to sprout. They might even bloom one day. So here's what I want to know. What joy adjacent practice do you think you could try this week? Let me know in the comments if you get a chance. I read every single one and I would love to cheer you on. And if this conversation resonated with you, I want to invite you to join my newsletter community. Every week, I share insights like this, practical wisdom that helps you build a life that feels meaningful and connected. You can sign up using the link in the description below. Thanks again to Therapy Notes for sponsoring today's episode. They're practice management software for busy therapists like me who want to save time to get back to focus on the things that matter most. To check it out and get a free 2-month trial, use code Dr. Therese or check out the link in the description. Before I let you go, I have to remind you of one thing. You are not broken and you are not behind. The path to joy isn't linear and it doesn't look the same for everyone, but it is possible for you. Yes, even you. Even with your particular struggles, your specific challenges, the unique set of hardships and difficulties that you may be facing. And you don't have to wait until you've solved all your problems to start tending to your joy. Start with presence or gratitude or acceptance, whatever feels most accessible to you right now. Thanks for checking in with me today, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.